able to winkle out those men still loyal to Ceausescu. If anything, the fighting intensifies as the day wears on. Both sides obviously seeing control of the state television service as vital to their cause. Not only are the studios now being used as a headquarters by the new government of national salvation, but prisoners, including former ministers and close aides of the deposed President Ceausescu, are being brought here to be interrogated. Paul Davis, Bucharest.
Members of the local Romanian community are in shock and aren't sure who or what to believe. The emotional roller coaster began late Thursday with word of the Ceausescu regime falling. Initial joy was dashed as they learned about the overthrow's brutal aftermath. Paul Taylor was with them at a vigil this morning at the legislature.
Strains of the Romanian national anthem pierced the crisp morning air outside the Manitoba legislature. The 200 Romanian Canadians sang the words once banned by the Ceausescu regime. Ceausescu is gone. So too is the short-lived joy of his overthrow.
Why all these people should die? For what? Because a crazy...
Guy Costas contacted Romania late last night. He doesn't know whether his father is alive or dead.
He was in the television square in Bucharest, and there died a lot of people.
There were others in the crowd with terrible secrets. Another recent refugee reached his family earlier this morning and learned of a modern-day Trojan horse that rolled into his town. It was a supply train carrying a sinister cargo.
Everything seemed okay. It sealed. When they opened the doors, there was at least 10,000 security people, those armed security forces, and they started shooting.
There were still other fresh accounts of the growing atrocity, more mass graves, and a growing suspicion of the military. Were they loyal, disloyal, or mercenaries with no fixed loyalties? In a bid to stem the despair, a prominent human rights lawyer searched for meaning from the senseless bloodshed.
We must support those who are fighting for freedom. We must remember those who died in the fight. And we must bring to justice those responsible for the mass murder of innocents.
And across town, a longtime observer of Eastern Europe warns the future of Romania is uncertain at best.
We know less about Romania than about other Eastern European countries. Because of the very Stalinist and repressive regime, the civil rights movement and the political underground movement is relatively less known, if in existence, in Romania than in other Eastern European countries.
The Romanian flag, however sullied, was hoisted just a little higher today as the country they call home begins a slow and painful recovery. Paul Taylor, CKND First News.
In another international hotspot, U.S. forces are still searching for Panama's Manuel Noriega, and fighting in the streets of Panama City is continuing.
There is still no word on where Manuel Noriega is hiding. The head of the U.S. Southern Command says the U.S. is acting on intelligence reports that indicate Noriega is still in the country. Meanwhile, help is on the way for American soldiers in Panama battling Noriega loyalists. 2,000 reinforcements are expected to arrive sometime late today. U.S. commanders say loyalists are stepping up their attacks and are now threatening civilians.
The Christmas break in Winnipeg is off to a grim start. Last night, one man was mowed down in a hit-and-run accident. He has died.
Police say the victim was a pedestrian. 71-year-old Joseph Stanley Millen was hit outside the Mount Royal Hotel about 8 last night. A 26-year-old motorist gave himself up to police nearly 4 hours later, after midnight. He will be charged after an initial court appearance on Wednesday. Millen is the 31st traffic death of 1989.
The Jewish Festival of Lights has begun. Because the first full day of Hanukkah fell on the Sabbath this year, public celebrations won't begin until tomorrow. But like most things in life, there are exceptions. Paul Taylor reports.
6-and-a-half-year-old Sarah Shepps lit the first candles of the menorah this evening, a ceremony repeated many times during Hanukkah. But what's a girl like her doing in a place like this?
It's probably the most unorthodox Hanukkah party you'd ever see, but it's loads of fun.
On wheels, the Festival of Lights augmented with roller skates and rock and roll. The YMHA Jewish Community Center moves its Kids' Day to the Winnipeg roller rink for Hanukkah every year. The party gives its 300 members a chance to share some of their traditions with non-Jewish friends.
They've got roller skating, but it's really lots of fun.
And in case you're wondering, this isn't the only side of Hanukkah these kids will see during its 8 days.
And of course you light the candles for the other 8 days and have smaller family parties and friends over. So I guess it does get a bit more orthodox, if you'd like to call it that.
Whatever you call it, this is a special time seen through the eyes of a child. Paul Taylor, CKND First News.
Gee, I was kind of hoping we'd get to see Paul on roller skates in that story. Tonight, we start a feature that will run for the next 10 evenings. A look back at the events of the last decade.
Well, welcome to the 1980s.
We thought he was finished. Voted out of office in